we got here? We got fishermen here. I have, oh my gosh, that is one of the most, what would we call that? Cursed images, blurst images ever. That is a disturbing one. All right, give people a minute to show up. We will be going over this stuff today. So, I'm going to have us talking about getting into Linux. I'm going to pin a lab. So, there will be a lab for you guys to use for all the questions if you want. Give me a second here. Did have a couple new labs come out just recently. But the lab for today will be this one here, because that's the easiest one that has two sets of servers in it. Actually, I can leave that one started too, I guess. We're not going to use that right now. All right, pin the lab. Pin lab, boom. Make sure it stays manually there, so anybody that wants to come in and do it. All right, I'm going to give it a couple minutes. We'll get started here. Let's say a couple more minutes for me to drink my little chalky milk I got from downstairs. My wife and my son have the entire week off this week from work, so they don't have to do anything. Well, school and work between the two of them. I still get to engineer, and I get to work on Friday, which is one of the downsides. One of the downsides people don't think about with contracting is, you're not a full-time employee, so you don't really accrue hourly with your contract employees. I am a full-time employee with my normal job, so I am a full employee there, and I can take time from there. But I don't get days off when other people get days off unless I take them, which is, that's acceptable. I do get 10 federal holidays a year, though, so that's kind of nice. All right. Let's get this kicked off here. I'm going to start this other thing running. You may say, Scott, we've done that Socratic thing a few times. I've been adding a whole bunch to it. Yeah, you guys are getting paid. There's going to be, I'm going to let this run, and it'll be running in the top right for the entirety of the time that the stream's going, and I think it'll probably be up there for the entirety of the stream. But there is a lot of stuff there, and if you get stuck on anything, any of those questions up there, just feel free to jump into that pinned lab there and work on them. So, for me, there's Robodom. Hey, Robodom. Yep, let people know about the Discord. We got the Socratic method in the top right corner, which is one way that we learn things, right? And the other thing I was just going to do was just kind of talk through. I'm just going to keep adding to this, which this is the, whoops, undo that. This is the thing that I'm going to have, that I'm going to be working on, which is just our drawing on getting into the Linux engineering field. And as we describe stuff and talk about them, like how do you learn engineering? There's structured learning and unstructured learning, and what are the different ways that we do different things? I'm just going to keep adding to this, right? So this will be kind of a talk that we kind of constantly keep pulling up, and I'm going to keep just adding to it and building on it as we go, and that'll be kind of one of our things, right? So that's what we're going to be working on. Other than that, we are at 2,942 followers, so we're only 58 off of 3,000, which is cool. Trying to get that built up. So, what else? Let me pull this up for you guys. I've been trying to pull this up and let you guys know about this. You guys can always go in here and see in the top left of our Discord, we've got events that are coming up, and some of them are going to be pretty fun. I'll probably add one for this next week where, let's see what our time is. Yeah, I'll probably add one for this weekend. Although the 26th is my wife's birthday, so I'll probably be a little busy on Thursdays, or on that Sunday. So I don't know if we're going to be doing the lab Sunday like we normally do. But I'm trying to put in all the events here. But I would highly advise for people that are into data engineering and stuff, do not miss the second. that December 2nd. Try to be around to come listen to Ben talk about economics and data analytics and stuff. I suspect he's going to have a pretty good talk. And then we're going to do our first holiday Christmas party on the 16th, so it's nice and out of the way before everybody ends up being busy for the holidays and stuff. I figure the 16th is early enough that it's a week before, so hopefully that's not like knocking anybody's like in-laws coming in town or something. That's a long time for in-laws to be in town, right? So, all right, we'll do that. You guys are always welcome down Discord and hang out down there, talk shop, do whatever. Thanks for you guys that are hitting the little student button. That's always fun. Lets me know that you guys are here and interested in learning something. Let me finish my chocolate milk that I just grabbed from downstairs. I'll go over to my normal water. Yeah, if you guys don't follow Sending Fisherman. Fisherman streams typically after me. Well, sometimes before me. It just depends on when it is. Yeah, Salty, I'm almost to 3,000. If you're talking about followers, yeah, we're getting there. I mean, I don't really even know what any of that means. It's not like I write in my diary every night or anything. I got to 2,942 followers today. You know, I always joke around in the jiu-jitsu world about like, dear diary, I caught Scott today. You know, no, that doesn't happen, so it doesn't really matter. But all right, so what are we doing? On the top right, you guys can see a bunch of questions that are just rolling. If you want to try to do those, you can go into the lab. The lab has that we've pinned. If you click on it, it'll pop up with the environment that we're in, and you can go through and you can work on any of the questions as we go. If you have any questions and you want me to kind of answer them as they're going through, so like, can you tell me the chip of the manufacturer? Right, that kind of stuff, right? Like, yeah, I think I can figure that out, right? And here's the manufacturer, Intel, right? So we could figure stuff out as we kind of go. The other thing I was going to do was kind of talk about some of these things that I think are kind of like the base skills, and then I was going to start drawing them out over on the side. I'll probably drag down to, you know, its own little part of this. I'll back out and maybe go to its own little part, and I'll keep adding stuff to this drawing kind of as we go, right? Like what's important, what isn't. And then I have these things, and I'm trying to put these things just all over, because I think that people always think that there's this thing that matters, but I think that the thing a lot of times that people are focusing on just doesn't matter. So like, I'll let you know if we're talking about something, you're like, oh hey, should I know, like, I don't know, should I know, I don't know, there's all kinds of things people focus on. I'll wait till one of you guys tell me one, but there's always something that somebody, and I watch this all the time, and I tell people when they come and talk to the Linux group, I'm like, you're going to talk to these guys for like an hour and a half. I tell Jared this every time he comes and talks. Like, you're going to talk for an hour and a half about Google Analytics, and people are going to like ask you what type of slippers you wear before you go to bed at night or something. And I'm like, people think about all kinds of stuff that has nothing to do with it. Salty, I'm almost at 3,000. Probably won't hit 3,000 this stream. Maybe by the end of the month. Probably, I don't know. I've been grinding out so long. I don't even know anymore. We're just kind of going. Salty. By the way, guys, if you don't follow Salty, you should. He streams and does tech stuff. I missed your stream last night though. I wasn't able to hop on. We were doing something. I was doing something with the wife. And Tawny's here. Hey Tawny, how's it going? We're just kind of working through stuff right now, telling you guys about different people to follow. Salty and Fisherman are great. And yeah, at the top right, you're just going to keep seeing questions. If any of those questions are like, oh shoot, I don't know that, let me know and I'll stop them and we'll go through them, okay? Yeah, it's pretty much the whole gang right now, Fisherman. Like, everybody got together. Hey, I ever told you I won Times Person of the Year? It was in 2000. I didn't know that, Tanya. That's pretty good. Times Person of the Year. All right. So the stuff up here, there's a lot of these pieces that I think are good to look at and know. And I'm going to keep adding to them again. But like, what are the things that we kind of need to know, right? Like, Salty, you use the interviews all the time? Your Time Person of the Year in 2006. I know that's a reference, but I don't know that reference right off. I think I'm kind of out of it today. I pulled out a knife in an interview once when I was giving the interview. Oh, is that what it was? Was it the whole human race or something, Tawny? I don't know. I don't know what it was for 2006. I didn't know that. Salty, so I know exactly whose interview it was because they hired the guy, and he's since, I mean, I wouldn't call him like a good friend, but he and I would go to lunch every day when I used to engineer for Karis Life Sciences, so I would say the guy liked me, and we were buddies. But yeah, I was cleaning under my fingernails with my Gerber, so I had my knife out, and during an interview, but it was like, I mean, there were like four of us in there, and then him, and the other three guys already knew him. So it's like I didn't realize that they were gonna hire him no matter what. And then it's kind of funny because like I didn't like him the most of all the people that we had interviewed, but they already kind of knew they were gonna hire him because they all knew him, and I didn't even realize that. And I mean I heard them say like, oh, I've met this guy before, but I didn't realize like all three of them had worked with him. So I'm like, oh, okay. And he's still the guy whose Plex server I use when you guys hear me say like I got a guy I know who like downloads everything and puts it on Plex, and then I just watch I watch every movie the weekend it comes out on his Plex server. But I don't pirate anything myself, guys. I think that's I'm just kidding. I don't really think anything of it. But I did not know about the Times Person of the Year thing. That's funny. Yeah, and I tell you, you share that with yeah, I was gonna say Osama bin Laden was still around back then, so you shared it with him. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Now you know too. Yeah, I didn't know that. I probably wouldn't put that on my resume, but my resume is a bit. I've shown you guys my resume before. I've got my little redacted version one that I sometimes pull up. The what's oh, the other thing too. I've been super busy this week. I told you guys I started on my doctorate, and this school like hits the ground running, and it's all online, right? It's online. I got a couple of residencies over the next couple of years I got to do, but it is heavily heavily. I mean, well, I guess all doctorates are heavily research based. Yeah, Salty. I'm doing GCU. I'm doing a DBA in with an emphasis in data analytics, quantitative data analytics. So I'm gonna be doing that. And that's why sometimes on stream here, you're going to see me pulling up my, for you guys that haven't been around, most of you guys that are talking here have been around, so you know. But I do quite a bit of data science stuff on the side for like fun. And I am an amateur data scientist at best, but at least I'll be a more educated one of them here soon. But I have a bunch of stuff, and I do a lot of process engineering with with my college now. Process better, getting better at stuff, Six Sigma, that kind of stuff. But there's if my spider will come up here, I use the Spider Idle IDE, and yeah, I got a bunch of BS in here. Like this is my stuff. You guys have seen some of my BS before here, where like this is just like dumb stuff that I do where I pull in a bunch of different earthquakes and then I make them into a Folium page, and Folium will save, when I run this, it'll save these out. Where's that going to save to? Hold on a second here. It should save. No, that's my image stuff. Streaming. No, it's in my college stuff. Hold on, go to my college teach. It's in my college teaching because I write to the same place for the class that I teach this out of. But my project work, and then so my map data, you see for my class example, this is today. This was right now, 5:34 my time. And this was all the earthquakes that have happened in the U.S. according to the Geological Survey for the last 24 hours, right? This is all that data, right? Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not data. Yeah. So this is like me dicking around. This is stuff that I think is fun, like pulling stuff out of an API with like simple little. I think I've told you guys before. I had to learn how to do this with requests, and then I had to learn how to do it in. I don't want the new version. I had to learn how to do it in URL lib 3 because when I was doing this, because I also have something that does this out of Lambda, right? But like I don't claim to be like some coder, but I can solve the problem of input, process, output, right? That's about as far as I go. I have a bunch of junk code in here that I'm like not even using anymore from when I was like messing around with this. But anyways, my point is like I'm gonna be doing more of that stuff and mess around in that space more. So you guys will probably see that. Power BI data is kind of janky and messed up. Yeah, Tomo. That's why we need Salty to stream more so that we can watch more of his stuff. Because Salty will do that. He'll show us how to do all this stuff right. But mainly, as we look at this, hold on, where was I at here? I want to have this up. Mainly, the goal of this stream is to get people into the Linux engineering field and things that I think you kind of need to know, things that I think that are important to kind of work through and do. I'm just going to keep adding them on here. So I'm just going to keep building those things up, and that's going to be kind of the goal of the stream, unless I'm working on that stuff. Also, if I want to pull anything up for like, if I'm working on anything, I probably won't write anything on stream, but if any of you guys want to review like what I'm working on, or when I pick, I haven't picked my topic for my dissertation yet, but I'll probably do that here in the next few months. So if any of you want to see any of my dissertation work, that's fine. I don't mind showing you guys that once that starts getting pulled together. I'm not sure what I'm going to be looking at or working on, but I do know some gaps in both documentation and engineering space that I might want to use. So there's that. Yeah, Tomo, I need to get you to come and talk to the Linux group too. Maybe later in December or early January. I should get you to come out and talk to them because you've been doing data analytics now for what, like a year and a half, right? When did you fall into that role? Since 2022, right? Tommy? I think that sounds right. Yeah, a year and a half. You're basically going on 20 years in it. Just come in and talk to people about all the BS that happens down in down in that space. And I'm sure everybody will appreciate that. Excuse me. We're coughing up a storm. What else do we got, guys? Tom can explain to the group about what it like ever going to shadow of your sibling. Fisherman, you don't want him telling you stories about me. Yeah. Fisherman, like basically everything before I'm 18 is off limits. Everything in the 90s is off limits. Fun fact: Tomo is one of my younger brothers, and he's a twin. And then the twin moved off to Idaho, and we haven't seen him in a while. But then then one of our other brothers just moved up to Idaho too. So now it's 3 of us still down here in Arizona, and 2 of them up in Idaho. And then like now my 2 other brothers, Tomo and another one, are thinking of moving up there. And I'm just like, I'm not leaving Phoenix. I'm going to stay down here. But they're going to be working on this. All right. So these were questions from the other day. I'll probably pull this section out because this section can kind of go off to the side. And the first one was around troubleshooting frameworks, and we kind of broke down some of the troubleshooting, the things that I think you need to know in troubleshooting. And what I'm going to do, let's pull this off here. Let's come over here to the side. I think with troubleshooting, the one of the most important things is find 1 or 2 methodologies that work for you. Don't try to learn them all, right? Like, you don't have to be an expert in all the different methodologies that are out there. You just need to be good at 1 or 2 of them, right? And the one that I found that's like the most common I'll pull up the most common one that I know right here. It's under our troubleshooting. I think we call it general troubleshooting. Yeah, right here. Get that out of the way. Typically, troubleshooting looks like this. Troubleshooting goes off of something like this. You've got identify the problem, right? Then you've got establish a theory of probable cause, right? And then this one is test your theories to determine the cause, right? And then, I won't put a period on any of those for now. And then it's establish a plan of action to solve and implement, right? 5 is verify full functionality. And then 6 is document. But a lot of people, and this is the way I kind of learned this from the Army, this is establish a plan of action, and then this is to solve and implement. So there's a most people do a 7-step. This is the way that I think most people do it. It's establish, 4 is establish, 5 is implement, solve and implement, or escalate. Right? So sometimes you can't solve something, sometimes you can't fix it at your level, you need to escalate it to higher, right? Verify your full functionality, and then document as well, right? So this is like troubleshooting right here. This is how we kind of do our troubleshooting parts of these things. And then the next question was, somebody asked about baselining, right? They said, hey, can you show us a little bit about kind of like how the baselining works? And I've got a talk where we get into the baselining part, which is down here under the Linux system administration. Let me pull this one out here. And the way that this one works, I'm actually probably just going to pull this over for you guys. Baselining kind of looks like this. Pull this over here real quick. Baselining is kind of a process like this, where when you want to baseline a thing. So baselining for me is how the system works under normal operation, right? And people will interchangeably use the terms baselining and benchmarking, but I don't think of them as the same. I think of them as separate, different terms, right? And with baselining, it is Pro Excalibur. Yeah, Robodom, I'm going to try to get better at it. I'm going to try to keep this updated. And I may even, like, this is going to make Fisherman visibly gasp. Like, if we could see Fisherman sitting at his computer right now, he would probably visually gasp at what I'm about to say. But I'm going to try to put together the Prolog website. We've got the page. I just haven't put the thing together, and then I'll probably kind of turn this into something that kind of looks nice on there and drop it on there. I know, Robodom. I know. Yeah, I know. I've had the website forever. I just haven't put anything on it. And a static page on S3 would be like the easiest thing in all the world, and probably it would probably stay in the free tier for how much it would get used, right? So it wouldn't be anything. Yeah, Robodom, I might. We'll see. Robotech's here. How's it going? We're going through just Linux, right? We're just talking Linux shop and just kind of breaking stuff down. I'm trying to simplify the page like that I'm showing you guys here, and people that have been here and think that the questions up there in the top right are the same, I assure you they're different. There are many more than have been shown before. I added probably another 15 today or so. So keep an eye on that stuff in the top right if you want some challenges. Netify? What's Netify? What the heck's a Netify? What's the one that, hold on, what's Netlify? Sorry. What was the one that people use called Hugo? What is Hugo web page? If I just want static stuff. Well, no, I could just run. I mean, look, S3 buckets are the easiest thing in all the damn world. Yeah, like Hugo. Oh, it's just a stat. Yeah, any kind of static site generator. I had heard good. I've seen really good stuff out of Hugo. Um, but yeah, I was gonna do it on S3 because that's like the thing I know. I mean, look, guys, I've been building lamp stack servers since like the early 2000s, but obviously running shit in the lamp stack. Or, I mean, I could I host things right out of my own home with my Kubernetes stack, obviously. But I just want like a simple page that stays up, that's just out there, that just shows some of this general stuff, and just has some links that points back to our stuff on, come hang out in Discord. Because really, at the end of the day, all we want is just a group of people to gather memes for us down in Discord, right? We just like, look, here's the steps. Collect. So it's collect memes. And then it's collect memes. It's some step that we don't know. And then it's profit. That's it. So it's 1, collect memes. 2 is something, and 3 is profit. That's what we got, guys. This is life for us. Collect memes, something, profit. All right. Collect memes, create book, profit. Yeah, the book hasn't. I could show you guys like the little chart of the book. The book is not super popular, and that's okay. I think maybe over time, people will think that the book is useful to them. But also, I'm going to be working on it. I'm going to try to make it a goal to do a new version of the book every 2 weeks, because the cool thing about LeanPub, if any of you guys ever played with LeanPub, is you can keep pushing new versions. Now, people don't have to download all the different versions. Tani, I've got a book out, if you didn't know that. It is so all it is. Here, I'll pull it up. I'll pull up what the book looks like for you guys. Here's what it looks like in LeanPub, right? LeanPub's kind of cool. And then here's the royalties. It hasn't sold very much. But if you come look over at the in the overview here, no, sorry. So you go to write, and that'll let you write the book. But then you switch it over here. Yeah, Tani. All it is about the lab. So it's a big book of labs, right? Hold on, let me pull this up and go to preview page, so I can preview the book multiple times. So I can generate a new preview. I haven't generated a new preview since 11:05, but I'll just say I want to generate a new preview of the book. Like create a brand new one, and this one just goes to me. Only I'll be able to see this, and then I'll download it. And then it'll be and then it shows you like all the stuff it's making or whatever. And when people buy it, then they can always update the versions. And I found out about LeanPub through a guy who Ned Bellavance, who was doing when I was doing my vault stuff a couple of years back, and Ned Bellavance had this cool little book on here where I could go in and study a bunch of stuff, and I was like, that's awesome. I don't even think his book ever got finished all the way. Like I think he left it at like 95% or something, but it had all the things I needed to go past the vault certification, so I was like, that was pretty good. And I liked it, and I felt like it was kind of cool because I got to flip him a nickel. Yeah, it was kind of cool. Like I think it was like 15 or 20 bucks for his book, and I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. So the cool part about this site is it lets you just every time I publish a new version, anybody can get it. And I found a couple of different little problems with it, like the second lab and like the Ansible labs I had pointed to the wrong place, so I fixed that. And then like I have just more content I want to put in it because we've added as we've went. I've like just the other day we added a new variables and condition logic to our Linux labs, and then in our Ansible labs we added one for CSV report the other day. So you can use Ansible to generate a CSV report if you've never done that. People probably, the way management works. Here, I'll show you guys here. Right at the top. Management has requested that you provide system information about all the systems in your HPC cluster. And my brother Tommy, who's still on here, probably could tell you that I do not care how beautiful your Power BI or your front-end web page is or whatever. You show that data to your system. You show that data in a meeting, and they will go, that's really wonderful. Can you give it to us in an Excel? And you're like, really? That's what you guys want? You want it in Excel? Yes. Yeah, yeah, we want it in Excel so we can make our pivot tables out of it. Because that's a tool that all managers know, guys. If you guys don't know that, managers love Excel, and I even have it down here at the end when you finish it. You've done it in CSV format to keep the management fed full of tasty information, because the managers just want it in .csv format. And anybody out there, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, every one of you out there that that has ever worked with any manager of any type knows that it does not matter what you try to give them, they're going to ask for it in a Excel format. So CSV is our way of doing that. Fisherman said, will you be recording the book so I can download it from Audible and listen while I run? Fisherman, no, I will not be doing that. You guys probably can't listen to me hardly enough as it is. Pause the stream and picked up when the commercial was over. Yeah, Salty, I see that little thing pop up, and then it's never timed right though. So like I try to stop talking, and then people are like, we're back, and I'm like, and then but it still says 40 more seconds for me. So I'm convinced that thing just doesn't work right on my side. Oh, let me download the book. Hold on. So I'll download the PDF of the book. It'll download over here in Chrome, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then now this is what the book looks like. Comes up like this, totally my art. And then there's information about me. I always do stuff like that to see if Fisherman's still around. And then the goal of this is like the philosophy of learning enterprise Linux, because, you know, at the end of the day, I want you guys to just get hands-on, right? Everything I tell you guys in this, you know, when we're doing this stuff is like, I can talk to them blue in the face, but I seriously think the most important thing for you to do is get your hands on the keyboard. And, you know, most of the time I'm trying to just get you guys in the keyboard, but it doesn't always happen. And then this is our labs here. And then basically it's like, here's what I want you to do. Here's the way to use the book. There's 3 real ways. You can do 10-minute labs where you just push the buttons as fast as you can inside of our lab environment. And honestly, if you just push the buttons as fast as you can in the lab environment, it'll work and it'll all be done. Good. Then there's like longer where you could sit around and think and reinforce what you're learning, you know, write out the answers and reinforce, like, am I seeing what I expect to see? And then on the longer labs, the longer way I think you could do this if you really wanted to is you spend some time in the digging deeper section and really think about this and write out and understand the why. So then down here in the labs, here's the like kind of lab guide, and then here's what each of the labs looks like, right? So here's the lab link to the lab. Here's the additional questions on it that I asked you about. And then you come down and here's the next one. And I just have like more and more things for you to kind of go work on and study and think about. But they're all around our labs, the labs that we built up in the, by the way, all the labs are free, right? Like even if you don't ever touch the book, that's where all the labs are. Anyways, I only pulled this up because you guys asked. But where I want to add more to it is obviously I have I have another lab to add here now. So I have a whole nother page to add in here. And then I have down here, it's going to start on the Ansible part. And when we get to the Ansible part, this is all the security stuff. These are Linux security questions. I do want to add a little more color to those. And then in the Ansible labs don't have much to them yet. They still do have additional questions and stuff to add as information, but I don't have them as filled out as I want. And then the cool thing about the book, if you do go look at the actual page for the book, let me see where it is up here. Hold on. I linked this earlier, so if you go look at the actual book with the cost and stuff, it says right now that I've got the book 80% complete. So it's not completed yet. I need to finish updating it. But anyways, my goal with the book is going to be to keep updating it every 2 weeks or so until I'm done with it. So probably every 2 weeks until the end of the year. Yeah, Robedom. Well, you know, that's the thing about engineering, and I tell you guys this all the time, even jokingly, like, engineering does require, at both levels, whatever you want to do here, it requires reading. So let me pull this over real quick. So there's 2 ways to learn engineering and getting into it if you struggle. There's structured learning, and there's unstructured learning. And I'm going to say requires reading. And this one also requires reading. There is no difference between the 2 of these for this. Both of them require reading. The difference is, though, for structured learning, someone is going to tell you what to study. Someone is going to grade you and redirect your energy. Should. Someone is going to confer a degree upon completion. Right? That is how this is how like structured learning works, right? But unstructured learning over here is you still got to read. You have to decide what you want to study. No one is going to force, coerce, or correct you if you don't do it yourself, right? Nobody's going to do it. I mean, you can have me yell at you online here, and you can go watch some of the other streamers, and they'll yell at you a little bit, but nobody's going to do that for you. And then there's going to be your projects. There's only going to be your projects and your skills to validate your learning, right? That's how it's going to work. Those are going to be the things. Structured learning is going to be your college, right? You're going to have college. You're going to have, I would say somewhere in between here is probably some semi-structured learning where maybe you go do some general courses. But structured learning is probably going to be your college. It's probably going to be your certification study. And again, I probably need to put something in between here that's like semi-structured, right? And unstructured learning is going to be like, I don't know, like LinkedIn. I would say unstructured learning is the foundation of hacking away at system to get knowledge. If you guys don't know, hacking has nothing to do with getting entry into a system. Hacking is simply the working on a system and testing the inputs to see what kind of outputs come out of it. So unstructured learning, but both of them, if anybody tells you you don't need to read in either of them, I tell you to go find somebody else to listen to, because they're probably not telling you the truth, right? All right. Hey, there's a good question up there right now. Who knows the answer to that one right there? Can you hard link to a file across file system boundaries? Anybody know how to do that? What if I told you that's a trick question? What if I told you that is not possible to do by definition? Yeah, hard link versus a soft link. Yeah. Can I'm gonna stop this real quick right here. I'm gonna go down to it. I think if I don't do anything, it'll not move. This was a trick question. Yeah, a hard link won't go across file systems. A soft link will. But what's the difference between a soft link and a hard link? That's a good question, right? If we're trying to get better at this. So let me first off find something that has a variation of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a df-h. Whoops, I'm going to clear that off. We're going to do a df-h and grep-v for container. And then I can see here that two of my locations that are mounted separately are, I could just use temp VDA1 here, and dev technically I could use dev, like I should be able to touch dev some file, I guess. It's not really a great way to do it. No, I'm talking about actual hard links. It is inode pointer salty, yeah, but it's check this out. So if I ls-l on dev some file, it is down there. It is in dev. And if I try to do an ln from dev some file to local, if I just tried to link that like this, it'll say, you can't do that. You can't hard link something locally, right? Because I'm in this other directory. Hold on. Let me Let me do that all again so we can all see everything. We don't want to see that. We try to do the link, and it's not going to link here. But if I do a df-h on dot, you'll see that I'm in the root directory. So I'm in a different directory. I'm on a different partition, as it were, than on udev here. So real quick, I can do that ln with a soft link. I can do a -s here. But real quick before I do that, let me show you this. Hold on, I got to show you this before I do that. Let's look at dev sum file, and I want you guys to pay attention to this number right here. Do you see that number right there? 1. I'm going to ln-s, that same thing that we just did. So ln-s right here. And that's going to be a soft link, and that worked. So if I do an ls-l for local, right? Now I see that I'm soft linked over to this other place, but I want to show you guys something. How many hard links have changed? Have the number of hard links to that file changed? No. But now watch this. This is a hard link. If I ln from subfile to dev sum file, it's in the same directory. So this is important. The partition has to be the same to sum file 2. Now watch this. Now there's 2 links to it. Those hard links are how many inode pointers go to that memory location where this sum file is. So watch this. I'm going to rm-rf dev sum file. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to kill that file off. But since I hard linked it, I'm going to ls to this file instead. And there's going to be 1 link to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and just hard link it back to the original. I'm going to hard link these backwards from the one that is now pointed properly to it in the file system to dev sum file. And now there's 2 again on both of them, because the hard links are pointing to the same memory location, but the hard links cannot cross. They cannot cross a file system boundary. So that question here about can you link to a file across file system boundaries? No, you cannot. And I did that to kind of test, because I wanted to see if people realized what I was saying, and were like, wait a minute, Scott, you're bullshitting us here. I was bullshitting you. That's a BS question with a BS response. But you can link soft across. But soft links, like this soft link is broken right now. If I do an ls-l on local, it should be broken. Oh no, I fixed it underneath. But when I deleted that, the local couldn't point to dev sum file anymore, but dev sum file didn't go away. Just the pointer to that memory location went away. And then I recreated it by relinking it back. So when you link files, you really just make another file that points to the same memory location. And when I say memory location, I mean on disk. So if I were to go change this file, dev sum file 2, from an empty file to something else, and then I were to read it from dev sum file, they're pointed to the same memory location, the same place on disk, and they are both truly changed in real time. Which you might say, well, does that cause a problem for memory reads and writes inside of programs? Absolutely effing yes, it does. That's why we have to have locks and stuff, because we used to have to lock our Perl and that kind of stuff. Yeah, because you don't want somebody writing to a file that you're trying to write to, break all kinds of crap, right? But this is where you see it in the file system. So if you guys have never done an ls-l and looked at that, that's where it's happening. Watch this. I can start being silly here, right? I can just start doing a bunch of them. Let's do a bunch of them, because sometimes it looks even, it's more obvious when we've got multiple locations. And you say, well, how easy is it to delete this file now? You better go delete 6 different things before that memory is wiped off of the disk. And it also teaches something else that's very important. The file system, all the file system does, if I go dev sum, right, dev sum, right, and I see all of them there, and I remove all of these to dev sum, right? I got rid of all of them. Now I do my ls-l on dev sum, and they're all gone. That file, all we did in the file system, all we did inside of Linux in general was kill all of them. We deleted the pointer to that one location. They're all pointed to the same one. But until it gets overwritten, it's still there. And this is how forensics tools get people all the time. This is why you have to use those disk scrubbing things to scrub off your disks, because if this never gets overwritten where this was at, this file still exists on the disk. And we can actually recover it. We need to use tools to recover it, but we could recover that empty file still if we wanted to. Because, yeah, these are just inode pointers to a memory location on disk. And when I say memory location, I mean a disk memory location, not a like a RAM disk. I'm talking about like down in the actual physical spinning platter, right? Okay, so anyways, I want to show you guys that. All right, so anyways, so then we'll keep going. Those questions will be up there for you guys, but that one was, I thought that was a fun one. If you've never like played around and hard linked files and then hid them in other places, you can do it, and this is how you can tell if somebody's hard linked something somewhere else. All right, and then God, there's a command, and I forget what it is. You might be able to do it with ls. Where, like, so if I ls this and somebody had hit it down in dev somewhere where the other one was, there's a way to see what all the hard links are into this, but I can't remember that off the top of my head. The guys, I tell you guys all the time, I have to look stuff up. I don't remember everything. It may be ls that can do it. Let me go look. Dereference, false symbolic links. It's not that, because it's not a symbolic link. It may be -L. We'd have to test it, right? So we could go make that file again and then just test it. All we gotta do is this. So we'll just go touch it. Watch. This is the quick way. We'll bang touch because it was the last thing we did, right? So we touch dev sum file, and then we'll just link dev sum file into another one, and then ls-l dev sum file will have that, and it's to 2. And then if we do an ls-L on dev sum file, it may do it. That's not right. That's not right either. I don't know where. Somebody might know it. Touch creates files. That's exactly what it does, Robot. I deleted them all. Hide pattern, hyperlink, inode. -I. I'll let you guys play with that and figure it out if you want. But anyways, that's a thing to think about as we kind of go through this stuff, right? Okay. So we were back over here. We were thinking about all of these different things that we kind of have to know about the system. Get rid of here, collect memes, get rid of all that stuff. You guys asked about baselining, and we were talking a little bit about baselining. But typically this is a way that like I will benchmark a system. So baselining, we want to gather as much data as we can for as long as we can. But when I talk about benchmarking a system, which tends to be spinning a system up to a high water mark, that's typically what I think of with benchmarking. Problems with benchmarking are we can't do them on production systems that are really being used, because if you benchmark a production system, you're probably going to cause an outage. Because there's only one or two things that can happen. You can do a load test, and a load test just proves it can take the additional load, and that's a good test. We have 800 users. We're about to have a big sale. We expect about 1,200 users at a time. Can we verify our web servers can handle it? So we take our normal 800 users and we simulate 400 more. Problem is, if you load test it, that's great. If it handles the load, that's good. But if you start to break stuff, a stress test always breaks something. It becomes a stress test once you start to lose the ability to connect, and then that always means that if you're doing that live, that your customers are losing out. So we got to kind of watch out for that stuff, right? But I do kind of want to draw out the benchmarking methodology and put it in here as well. So I'll probably grab this and turn this into a drawing. I thought I had originally drawn this somewhere, but I kind of want to draw this out here in our system. But at the high level, we plan and we say, what do we want to prove? Our goals are identification. Could in the academic space be the idea? Can you show that it was connected? Yeah. Can you show that it's connected? That's definitely ETH tool, Ashby. That's definitely the tool I would use for that. Yep. So we have our goals and identification over here. Like, what do we want to do? This is in the academic space. This is our hypothesis. What do we want to prove, or what's our null hypothesis? If we can't prove something, what are we going to disprove? That's very important, right? And then we've got our tools and metrics identification. So what are we going to gather? What data are we going to look at, right? And we have a lab that currently shows you how to gather data. We have 3 labs that show you how to gather information out of a system. And I'm turning one of them into a data science-y lab where you just use it to really gather whatever you want. You can pull whatever you want in and load it up into Influx. Because I think that's pretty valuable. IP link should work too. For that, I don't know. Does that work? I'm going to clear IP adder. Here's my interface, ENP1S0, and I'm going to say IP link. Will that show? It'll show that they're up. That's okay. But I really like ETH tool for it, and because this last line right here, link detected, yes. Up or down? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's probably okay. Yeah. I've always liked this because this was good for me when I used to work with a lot of physical machines. And even with virtual machines, I've found a lot of value out of this because sometimes, and this is rare, but sometimes you have a virtual machine that moves from one VMware like ESXi host, and somebody like manually moves a group of them over to maybe a new ESXi host. And on that new ESXi host, they don't have a defined VLAN, or they don't have, this one's common, you're using a VMDK that's got an older, and it uses, what's the old, like, there was like an old, like, Ethernet, like 1000, was it what it used to be? But then you're on the newer one, and I forget the nomenclature, but the point is, the link wouldn't connect on the virtual machine side. So, like, everything else looks fine, and the VM came up because, your ESXi is programmed to allow it to come up, but then you don't have any disks. Like, you don't have it, like, it's not all working. I say disks, but I'm sorry, you don't have a connection. I don't know if that's Narcello. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Thanks for the follow, Narcella82. If that's your birth year, you're 1 year younger than me. I was born in 81, in case you guys didn't know. And I'm very old now. I feel very old. I can feel it. All right, anyways, I'm just kidding. I'm not so old, but benchmarking, right? We gather information, and then we plan and do our resource allocation. This is all planning. Get all this stuff and lay it all out first. What are we going to do? What do we want to test in our system, right? What's our goals and identification, tools and metrics? What are we going to do? So over here, if I were to pull this back up, I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to drop it over on the left here. So now it's just down here. Clear the screen up, and I want to do a little benchmarking on this system, and I say, okay, I'm going to use the tool uptime to see the load average. Oh, I only got 9 more minutes in the lab, so I might refresh the lab. If anybody wants to do the lab with me, it is pinned, so you could simply put the lab in. And if anybody's on, there's not many people over on YouTube, I don't think, but here's the lab on YouTube if anybody wants to do it. We're not actually doing the lab right now, but I'm just showing you guys like a benchmarking methodology. So I'm going to use uptime to see the load average of this server in the 1, the 5, and the 15-minute range right here. So then I say while true, do uptime, sleep 1, let's say sleep 5 for now, done. And this thing will just sit there and spin for me forever. While true, do done will allow us to build a conditional loop that is always evaluated true, and it's always going to spin forever. So now we can watch this system. The system just started up, so it's a little high. We're going to watch it drop down. And it's going to drop down to being under 1 for its average load on the CPU, right? That's kind of what it is. Hey, Hanso, hi. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are just running through stuff. And, I don't know, doing labs. Not really doing labs right now, though. We're just kind of talking shop a little bit, talking about getting into the engineering field. And I'm kind of going to break down benchmarking methodology here in a second. So now I'm going to say another thing I'm going to do. So I got my tool. That tool works. but I want to spin the system up to a high load and see how it behaves. So my idea is I think that I can get the system to spin up to greater than a 10 for its weight. That's the weight against the if you do an nproc, right? Nproc. Anything higher than 1 here is wait time against my processors if I have a processor of 1, right? That's how many processors I have. Han Sohai, you said heard people who start with DevOps struggle with entering programming. For me, it's the other way. Yeah, Han, I don't do, like, I'm underneath DevOps. Like, in case you guys don't know, I'm platform engineering and systems engineering. So I'm even lower level typically than DevOps. Although you would kind of say, like, I kind of dip my head up into that quite a bit. I do a lot, my automation stuff, I get pulled into a lot of meetings with people, but it's just because I know how, Ansible works. And that tends to get you called on. But getting called on a lot, you can look at it 2 ways. People complain about it all the time, but it's like, yeah, but I don't get let go typically when things go bad. Although I can't say that because of what happened with Best Western when COVID started, right? Yeah. Well, Robodom, like, for me, lower level doesn't mean that I'm, like, doing anything less important. People still need my systems to work, right? All right, so I'm going to watch this system spin, right? I'm going to let it cook. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make a new tab. And in this tab, I'm going to use a different tool that's going to go ahead and spin the system up. I'm going to DD, and DD is the disk duplicator. And I'm going to read in, and I'm going to say I want to read in from in file is going to be dev urandom. So every time my system goes to grab a bit, it's going to grab it from the processor, and it's going to get a random 1 or a 0. Well, that's going to cause the processor to use some CPU cycles. I'm going to say out file into dev null. I don't give a damn what. I don't care. Just pull a bunch. We're going to say the block size is equal to 1024K, so generate 1 meg at a time of random numbers off the CPU. We'll say count is actually the count is not really that important for this, but I'll say a gig. So 1,000 megs is a gig, right? And then I'm going to say take all of that. Take all of that and pipe that into a gzip, which is going to gzip2. Is that right? Yeah, gzip2. -9 should be the highest compression it can do, and then throw it all in the trash. Right? I think that'll work. We just do. Whoops. We just do gzip. We don't need the 2. There we go. So if I do that, watch. If I do that and I tell my system to do that, over here, it's going to spin up. We only had it for a second, so we need to come back over here and we need to do a little more. So I'm going to say, you know what? Go ahead and do that. Don't do that for 1 gig. Do that for 10 gigs, right? And when I do that, that's going to take a little longer, right? And if this doesn't do it, then I'm just going to run it in a for loop. But now watch, that's spinning. That's taking the system some time to do. And I come over here and I'm going to start to watch this spike. This is really going to start to go up right here on my CPU. See how my 1 minute CPU average is starting to go up? And I identified what I thought was going to happen maybe in my system over here. Now I'm experimenting. I'm experimenting and spinning the system up on its load time. That didn't take as long as I wanted. So I'm going to say done here, and I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to say for I in backtick sequence, I don't know, 30, do that. So do that 30 times in a row. All right, that's enough of that. And we're going to watch this system spin up, right? And this is a thing you could do to test. There's other ways to do this, guys. There's other things. We've got a tool called Stress that'll do this as well. But I'm just going to have the system start pulling a bunch of information in and zipping it up and seeing what that does to my processor. Twitch and YouTube up at the same time, Robodom. I appreciate it. Mr. Poolshot, I think it. Yeah, you know what? I might not need, when I do that, I might not need the dev null here for the out. I always forget on this one, but basically it's not writing it anywhere. But even then, it would pipe the output over to, yeah, I might not be doing that right. Let me go, well, it's definitely spinning up. Let me look at my notes, because I do this, had this in my notes somewhere. I don't know where my notes are. Hold on. I check my OneNote because I haven't done this in a while. I wrote this thing a long while back to like load up our systems. This is the Deceptor. If you guys have never seen my Deceptor, Deceptor was something that I did many years ago to give McAfee something to check access for on our systems. And for this one, for the CPU one, oh, you're right. I don't throw it into anything. I do it like that, and I used to use bzip dash, not bzip 2 bash back then, but this was my way of doing that. So hold on, let me go back. Yeah, because this doesn't look like it's spinning up as much as I'm used to. So that's probably what it is. I think I just take my dev null off of here. I don't throw it anywhere. I just grab it and then push that over there. Yeah, this, and I thought that was finishing faster than it should have too. So let's do that. And now this should really you should really start to watch this spike now. Yeah. But then my Deceptor, all Deceptor used to do was randomly, this was in Perl, and it would go and it would do different like BS on the system, and then it would tell me when I was testing, it would tell me what it was doing. But it just would go out and it would go and change people's permissions in root or in home directories. It would change their permissions. It would change the mount of different things to see. I just wanted to see if McAfee, and this was a long time ago, and I am very much still to this day against running antivirus on Linux systems. I think you have to turn on too much for it to even be of any value, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, this should start to spin up. Yeah, we should see this load keep going up. I wonder if we have bzip 2 on this system. Let's see if we have bzip 2. Yeah, I think we do. Yeah, clam. Yeah, and I just was never a fan of it because for it to even scan and look at the other user calls and all that stuff that's going on, you needed to turn on more things that were vulnerable than what would be on in a normal Linux system. So, like for your Falcon scanners and for your clam scan, you have to turn on it's something like interprocess something. I forget what it is, but it gets turned on with the installer. And by doing that, you allow more than you would have in most modern Linux operating systems anyways, as far as capability of reading other user space and that kind of stuff. So it always seems weird to me. I'm a tool called stress. That's funny. Yeah, this should be... Yeah, this... I feel like that's still not as high as I'm used to it going, but... Oh, you know what? Hold on. Show you guys something if you've never seen this. When you do this, if you ever go right here and then you just do an ampersand, I'm going to do all 30 at the same time. This is going to spike. In fact, this probably won't crash this server, but this will definitely take this server to its knees. So remember, anything higher than 1 is high. Anything higher than 1 is wait time for processes against the... So now we spin up a box like that while we're running our web server on it, and that's maybe an indication that our web server's at a certain amount of load. Like we get to one of these if we have 800 users and we want to test what happens at 5,000 users. So we spin it up to where we see about 5,000 users worth of load, and then we add another 200 users through like Burp Suite or some automated testing tool to experiment and see what happens to our stuff. Because again, I tell you guys, functional testing is it a web server? Does it have port 80 on it? Does it have port 443? Is it properly signing, the certificate that it's the right user? That's functional testing. Non-functional testing is, hey, what happens when I put the 5,000th and first user on this server? Well, that's very hard to test, guys. It's very hard to get 5,000 test users. So what's better is take a look at what load looks like when you have let's say you have an average load of 2,500 users, and that averages your system to a certain height. You can reasonably say, we can spin our system up and make it look similar. Granted, guys, look, I know it's not exactly the same thing. Like a server that's doing 5,000 or 2,500 threads of users is different than one that's just spinning up zeros and ones on a processor. I get that. But we try to make it as close looking as it can, and then we start the workload overage, or we start whatever the test is we want. And now it's kind of like we've loaded down the cart, and now we're going to see how it takes a turn, right? Testing in a non underload system is almost useless. Most people that have ever done anything in the wild will tell you, my stuff works great when there's no users on it. It's once the users start loading up my system that I find out that, I accidentally throttled this one thing to only be able to do so many calls, and shoot, once the fifth user goes, I don't have an index for another, memory location, so now they're all looking at the same cart and it's crashing. Like this kind of stuff happens all the time, but it does not get caught in functional tests. So functional versus non-functional testing is huge. Put that down over here. This is across any type of engineering. I don't care what it is. Functional versus non-functional testing. We used to do that a lot in the security world too. Yep. All right. So anyways, that was just something that we're beating the server up. Look at them. It's getting real high. That's a long wait time, and that's the 1, the 5, and the 15-minute load average, so we can kind of see how everything's going out over there, right? And look, here's these. We can see that they're still running. I can do a ps-ef grep-i for bzip. Not bzop, bzip. And then I can see all my bzips running. I can see how much they've been running. I can do an LSOF. I should be able to do an LSOF on dev null, maybe. And that may not work. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever tried to hit an LSOF. Yeah, there we go. We see the processes that are using dev null. And that may be useful to you. By the way, that's super useful right there. What I just showed with LS, or LSOF, one of the most useful things ever. If you're trying to unmount temp, and you do an LSOF on temp, and you get a bunch of stuff in there, which you will, because temp is off the... Well, alright. Let's do a df-h on dot. Okay, we're here. LSOF on this. I'm trying to unmount root. Let's just say, that's really bad practice, but let's say I'm trying to unmount root. Here's all the processes that are holding up, so I can't do it. And the example I always use is always stuck with me is you can't make a bed when you're in it. If you're in a bed and you try to put a fitted sheet on it, man, I'll tell you what, there's maybe like 1 or 2 contortionists out there that can do that. But for the most part, you can't do it, right? It would be way too difficult. Or to make the whole bed, let's even say, just impossible. Well, look at this. You can't undo a mount point while you're in it. Now, you can lazy unmount it, but I'm going to tell you, you're probably going to have problems. That's umount-L, and we use umount to unmount things. Okay? All right, anyway, so that's that. Baselining. We talked about getting hands-on skills. Guys, I think the number one way to get hands-on skills is to just get into a system that'll do it. So Killer Coda is free. It's out there. You guys can use it. All our labs are out there. Robodom, my bed is made right now. And I say that very proudly because my wife did it. I can assure you one thing, Robodom. I have not made my bed since I left the military. Not once. No, I mean, I've thrown sheets and blankets on it after I wash them, but I have not made it once since I got out of the military, no. Yeah. I'll tell you what, it makes it way easier. When things just start getting done around the house when you get married, it's real nice. Somebody asked, so this was a good one. Somebody asked, getting a junior sysadmin role, what to document or otherwise do as a project. Let me offer that there are projects out there that can help you to get a junior sysadmin role. We have projects up on our Discord. They are here for anybody that wants to do our projects. They are down here under presentations, and you go and you look at some of our older presentations. What's one of our big ones that happened recently? They're called Prologue projects. I apologize, guys. They're down here, and in the Prologue projects, we have the actual PowerPoints. So So if you want to look at them as PowerPoints, here's the PowerPoints for like our deep dive projects. And then this was us going through, and people were actually, it was actually kind of cool. As we were doing them, people were adding in the values and doing the code through our project. So all of that project is still available, I believe. Actually, I might have taken down the stuff. But if anybody wants to go do it, some of these nodes, you can still get in there and do this stuff. In fact, this stuff works in our monitoring labs, so you could go in there and do those. And then, yeah. And then there's Robodom cheating. All right. Yeah, Robodom, the projects are on there. Yeah, from that time that we did them back in April. Yeah, all the projects are up there. People can do it. And when we did them, I told you guys, like, go in there and fill this out and make it into a project that you can show somebody. Like, if you have nothing else to show somebody, I know you have more Robodom than other people because you've done projects and stuff. But if you want to get into the industry, right? Somebody's telling me they're new, right? Somebody's right here telling me they're new, and they say, I want to know, I want to know what should I document. I would tell them, go get one of those, and put those projects together. Yeah, those are huge. We talked about this one the other day. What type of jobs can you get as a Linux admin engineer? There are a lot of jobs out there. I look on Dice all the time. In fact, I tell you guys, I get called all the time because people always think I'm looking for work because I'm always constantly looking for jobs. But it's because I'm looking for my college students, right? Like I'm not out there actually looking for a job. I'm out there looking for what's out there. And there's a lot of things that say they're a Linux engineer, but they're really like a Linux and a networking engineer or a Linux and a security engineer. That one's huge. Or a Linux and a storage engineer. Those are probably the three biggest ones I know. Like, there's all kinds of things that are like, we need a senior Linux guy, but then you read about it, and you're going to be like programming what are they called? I don't know. You're going to be down programming like routers and switches the whole time. But they're like, well, but that's at the base of it. It's Linux, and it's like, yeah, it is, but it's a networking job, right? But they call it a Linux engineer. So, we look for those. We try to filter those out. But I would tell you guys, go look for a job, right? So we just go to Dice. I know Dice is bright. But we hop onto Dice here, and we look for Linux engineer or Linux admin. I don't care. Linux admin. Let's look for Linux admin. Let's see what's there. And they're going to find, here's some Red Hat one that's going to be more specific to Red Hat. Linux admin with site reliability engineer. Remember I said they're going to ask you to be something else as well. So you're not losing anything by studying some of these other things. Linux Solaris admin. Oh, they're looking for somebody older, right? Somebody that did Solaris before. I'm surprised Solaris is still kicking much because it's not really being supported. It still gets released, but it's not really like... Shoot, I don't know a government project that I've been on in the last 10 years that's still using it. But anyways, I mean, it's still out there kicking, I guess. Look, Senior SQL Server Database and Automation. They want you to be SQL, which is its own thing. Then they want you to be a server and automation. Yeah, I bet this one is like all over the map. So then I come in, I read these all the time. They want you to look on a SQL Server product deployed on EC2 and relational database servers. I was going to say the first thing you should tell them in the interview is get it off of EC2. You're spending too much. And relational database. Then you come in here, they want you to have AWS or Azure. So that's already weird to me when they don't like code one down. No organization, well, I can't say no organization, but serious organizations aren't on both. Yeah, they're probably on AWS since how they wrote this other stuff. They want you to know PowerShell. They want you to know Ansible. They want you to know WinRM. And they want you to have Terraform. It's like they're all over the map here, right? So, yeah, I don't know. They want you to have some programming languages. It's like, so anyways, that's what I was saying. Like, sometimes, people think they want to be a Linux engineer, but I'd really sort through these and make sure it's going to be something you want. Because even this one says Linux Systems Engineer. And I bet we go in there and it's not a Linux Systems Engineer role. It's like, or Linux Systems Admin. All right, that's pretty Linuxy. Install, configure, and update software. That's pretty good. Using Chef, that's fine. Kickstart is more of a build thing, but that's fine. They want you to know Nagios, Zabbix, or Splunk. That's pretty regular for a Linux engineer. They want you to know about IP tables, SC Linux, and PKI. That's pretty normal too. But PKI starts to bleed over into your security space. But as a Linux engineer, I have almost always, for the last 20 years, had to be the guy implementing PKI because honestly, nobody else ever understands it. And you say, well, what do I got to do to learn PKI? Well, there's a lot of places out there, but do we have the solve the bottom turtle? Do we have this? This book will give you this is about the problem of, this is a free book, by the way, right here. And one of our members of our community helped write this book, and it's free to download, so you can go look it up. But they will tell you, there's a lot of really basic concepts in here, even though they're trying to teach you about zero trust security. So if you tell me, hey Scott, I'm trying to be a little more security minded and I want to be able to talk about it in an interview, and I saw that somebody was asking for the zero trust model of security, this is a book on that. But it's taking a long time to download. Not only is this a book on that though, but if you go PKI and you go read about their PKI, they give you, and napkin apparently is PKI. There's quite a bit of how that works. And they explain to you the PKI process, a little brief overview of X509, how the standard works, and how it all works together. So this is a really good way to learn how PKI works. So if you didn't get that link's right there in our, I should probably put it, let me go put it over in the YouTube side too. But this is, the Solving the Bottom Turtle. One of the members of our community helped write this. And it walks you through how these certificates work. If you've never studied that, this is an excellent book that's free to go read. Look, if you do nothing else, go start on page, at least start at page 38, right? How do we trust things because of certificates, and how does that work? It's a great primer. Really, really good primer. They start you all the way back at the beginning. What is an identity? And then they talk about the trustworthiness of it, which is the whole point of zero trust security. And if you told me, hey Scott, I'm very serious about getting into security, and I'm very serious about this, but I don't know where to start, God, at least start here. Look, and if they're too high speed for you, you can go read they got it right here linked. I just saw it a little while ago. They will show you the actual, where's it at? They will show you, if we go up a few, they will show you the link to an RFC. If you guys have never read an RFC, RFCs are how you go to sleep at night, right? If you're ever like, I haven't been getting enough sleep, so I need to read. Oh man, hold on, where'd it go? X509 RFC. RFCs will put you to sleep at night. RFCs are boring, but they are the technical implementation guides for us engineers. So you got to read these in the morning over coffee so you don't go out. But this is how we eat right here as engineers. This is how we learn how things work. All right? And if you struggle with this stuff, go read it. The RFCs are, Mr. Poolshot, I'm telling you, when I've ever had, so I tell you guys all the time as engineers, I tell my students this, I'm going to tell all you guys this is the best piece of free advice I can give you today. When everything's working fine, you don't need to know this stuff. But when something breaks, you want to know how it works, because now you can go find where it breaks. And this is why I tell people, like with process flows or functions, there's 8 functions to how this thing works. And it broke on function 3. Now I don't need to read the whole doc. I just need to read this part right here and know what this is. So I know, because if I know what steps have been completed, then I know what step didn't complete, and it's somewhere in between the two, right? This is how we find things. If you told me, hey Scott, here, if you told me, if you came right here and you told me, Scott, you've got to search through, this is a bale of hay right here. You got to search through this thing. I'd say that's a lot. And I got to find some needle in this haystack right here, right? I've only seen a few haystacks in my life. I actually grew up near farms, but all right, so this is a haystack right here, right? And you told me, Scott, you got to find something in here. My best way to do that would be, well, hey, this part, it's not in there because that worked. This part worked. This part worked. It's probably right here. Or if I can narrow it down to this, that's way less to look at than the whole thing. It's a campfire, yeah. Should it be on fire? Red and what is that? I don't know. I'm colorblind. But anyways, my point in showing you guys that wasn't to try to show off my drawing. It was to tell you that like the way we do things work better if we understand like a process, right? Following processes and figuring out, following processes and following through like checklists will really make a lot of the stuff you do as an engineer like easier. All right. So again, we're just kind of moving around on stuff and looking at different stuff. But somebody said, is there a structured guide to get into tech? I don't think there is, but I'm trying to show you guys more and more stuff. There's no one way to get into tech. I think I told you guys I got into tech by getting my CCNA back in 2002. I passed that thing. And then I went, I passed it in the beginning of 2002. And then I ran around in the Army for another year and a half, went to Iraq, came back, and got a job moving around computers at a school district. That's what I got with my CCNA. That was the best thing I can get. Even just being right out of combat and all that stuff, that was like the best I can get back in 2003. And, I stayed there for a while, finished up my bachelor's and moved on. But super funny, too, because I was telling you guys the other night, like, my wife, I met my wife there, and she's still there till to this day. She just got her 20-year thing the other day from the school district that we met at, so that's kind of funny. No structured guide, definitely ways to stand out from big pool of candidates. Yeah, the structured guide, I would tell you, as an engineer, is know your value, right? So, one of the things I show you guys here, let me pull this up real quick. It's under our prologue presentations. It's our, and we've talked about this a lot, excelling in the engineering field after college. How do we keep going on? I don't know why I need to update this stuff, but how do we excel in the engineering field after college? Or again, if you're not going to go to college, that's fine. I don't care. You don't have to go to college, but it's excelling in the engineering field. This is what I think an engineer is right here. This is what I think you need to do. Like this is what an engineer is right here. This is what you're asked to do by the company, and this is what your understanding right here needs to be able to do that effectively. This is like the best I can give somebody right here. Like we deal in truth. We look for ones and zeros. We make a system tell us what the value is from some database, and then we do some work on it. We do some action, and then we change it and we move it over somewhere else. Right? At the end of the day, that's how all the ones and zeros move around the internet, right? And then down here, I say sometimes we're called on to answer the best technology, or sometimes we're called on to fix or troubleshoot something. Either way, you need to know things. Knowledge and finding solutions, right? Knowing how things work and what I was just talking about, like working through problems and stuff. So to that point, if we know that, if I know that these two things, if I've level set myself here, my goal is to know and understand as much as I can going forward. And then this whole talk is about how to do that, right? That's the whole talk here. And you guys if you've been around, you've seen me do that one before. Did this thing stop running a while ago? Let's see if that thing starts running again. I meant to leave that thing running up there. There's our YouTube. Yeah, we're running over on YouTube as well, trying to keep people interested in this stuff, get people going. We never finished benchmarking, but then you improve and you recalibrate and test over and over again. You're always spinning, guys. You're always spinning on your tests. And we were talking about this the other day. One of these with iPerf. There are like simple things. It's a simple set of things that happen. 4 easy payments of $4.99. Yeah. There you go. 4 easy payments of $4.99 right there. But I was telling you guys this, and it's just me and my boss were working a while back, and we were trying to prove that 2 links from one of our vendors we're the vendor to them for services, and one of our clients, we were trying to verify that they were getting the proper uplink speeds from their, whatever. We were trying to verify that they were getting their proper upload speeds from 2 different data links coming into their facility, and they wanted to make sure that it was the right speed. So we spun up and did some iPerf tests over a set of links out into the cloud, and I was telling you guys it cost us 47 cents, and we did it over lunch. He was on lunch, and I was working on a call, but I was the call had been stood down, I think, for lunch, and he and I just slapped this thing together and did a test and proved to them that both of their interconnections worked. Now, one of their interconnections worked better. Their primary one actually worked faster we did like 24 individual streams of data, and they got all their throughput. On the other one, we had to run up to like 32 individual streams of data to get the full throughput. So you say, well, Scott, what the hell does that mean? Why does that matter? Well, what that means is something is capping. And when I say capping, I don't mean like no cap. I mean like something was capping their speed of an individual thread. So if you were to try to use their pipe going out and you found that you were only getting 200 megs, but you thought you were supposed to get 10 gigs, which is actually almost exactly what the problem was. But then you found out that it's not a shared connection. You're being throttled. But if you throw 32 connections out, you do get all 10 gigs. And we proved that to them. So it was some system. So now we have to go do something else, right? We have to go look at. This can spin us off in a million different directions, guys. But the main one is we know that the uplink, the pipe is big enough. We can get the 10 gigs we want out of both. We proved it very quickly on the first one, then we had to finagle it to get the second one. But the thing was, it worked. And then we knew that they had the speeds that they expected, and we proved it. And again, we weren't the ones providing those two links. We're the ones that are giving them Linux and high performance compute services. But we were testing the links for them, as like a part of their team, and we proved very quickly that they were getting the speeds they wanted. But with the caveat that you have to know how to use that connection properly, and because they were under the impression that they weren't getting the speed from their vendor, and their vendor, their ISP was telling them, the ISP is Internet Service Provider, right? Their ISP for the second link was like, no, we're good, you guys can't be mad at us, and there was fights there, and we went and deconflicted it for 47 cents over a lunch break between the two of us, which obviously I'm still getting paid because I'm a salaried engineer, but the point is, I didn't really have to think too hard for it. And then this one said, how can a Linux engineer support their dev team better? These were questions from people on a stream a while back. So if you guys have questions you want to ask or talk about down in the Discord, I try to kind of bring them up and talk about them and talk about the overarching ideas. How do we get into the Linux engineering field? How do we learn this stuff and get better at it, right? But how can a Linux engineer better support their dev teams? I would say learning the environments. Learn what they're trying to do. You'll find that dev teams tend to not know what's going on the Linux side. That's not surprising, right? Because if you're on a Linux team, you tend not to know what's going on your devs team. And sound like a Lumen problem you have too? Yeah. And Mr. Poolshot, the best way I know to test it is to slap a system out there in the world. Where did that go? Slap a system out there in the world somewhere, turn it on for iPerf3, and send a connection over to it. But when you do this, and this came up, EC2 instance speed networking. There is a documented EC2 instance types here, and we should be able to go here, speed networking. Let's just say here 10 gig. Right, and it's gigabits per second, and they'll give you, I think it might be on this one. It's not going to drop us in there. Let's see if we can get instance types, and it should be a darker page. I normally have my stuff in dark mode, but I should be able to hit a Control F here and look for 10 GB. Here's our bandwidth. So that's the elastic block storage. So that's the back end. But on the network side, right, in gigabits per second. We could find if we're going to get at least to 10, because we needed to test 10 because 10 was what we were looking at, and we ended up doing like one like this or something. It ended up being not that much. It was 47 cents for the hour, and we didn't even have it on for the whole hour. Now, if you ever say, well, Scott, how do you test that? If it was this and we were trying to test it, I think we ended up doing well, it doesn't matter. Let's go to compute. or a calculator. AWS costs. I think it's calculator.aws.com, right? Phone company based one. So yeah, knowing what type of network it is and what you expect to get out of it's important. Let's create an estimate here. If you guys have never done this before, this is a good experience. Like if you want to know what you're going to pay in the cloud and be able to estimate it for your bosses. In my case, it was my boss actually adding the service. But region, do you know the region you're in? We were doing it in US East 1. We knew that was the closest place to where they were running their data out of. So it was great because we could just spin up a system like right next to them. And it's EC2. We wanted EC2. And we wanted it exactly then, so it is technically a shared instance. It was Linux. We needed one, and the instance family, if we can find it, is this one. Let's see if we could run this. And this one is going to be on-demand hourly cost of 5 cents an hour. So this is even smaller. We were using a large one, but we could have used this one because it could give us the speed that we wanted, and that's fine. And then Linux, you can do compute savings plan. There's a bunch of ways to save yourself money. We only needed it on for that one little bit of time though. So we could save and add the service, and we could see that if we used it for the whole month, it would be $19.64 or whatever. If we wanted to pay for it all up front, we could pay $235 for the whole year if we paid it all up front. That's reasonable for a business, especially when you're just going to bill it back to the customer anyways, right? Which is always true in the government systems. And this is not this is not a government project. Normally I work on a fair number of government projects, but this is a business that we work with. My company does. And then this one, ranks for admins. There aren't really any ranks for admins. You typically go junior and then regular, so it would be like a junior admin, and then an admin, and then a senior admin, and then like a staff admin, and then a senior staff, and then like a principal. But at that point, if you were ever being called a principal admin, I wouldn't even understand it. Typically at that point, it's an engineer, right? But those are more like the engineering. Engineers tend to be broken up like that. Admins, you're like a Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3 or something in most companies. And then after that, you probably want to try to get an engineering title. Because, getting called an engineer isn't just about being called an engineer to be called an engineer. Being called an engineer is much more about making the, 60 to 100K more than most engineers make over most admins, But is the work the same? The work is damn near the same, guys. Robodom, it just really tends to depend on what you know. I would tell you, there's some pretty well-defined ones for engineers, and there's pretty well-defined ones in my mind. But I think that the main ones are you gotta be able to duplicate yourself, and what I mean by that is you need to be able to, this is cultivating an automation mindset. And it's like you have to be able to, putting your hands on a keyboard is valuable to a point. But after a while, you need to know how to make your hands at the keyboard happen hundreds and hundreds of times a day through some type of automation. Look, guys, I don't care if that's Python you use. I don't care if it's Bash. I don't care if it's Ansible. I like Ansible, right? You guys see me mostly do Ansible. But whatever it is that makes you able to do more, that's typically when you start to get like you've got your juniors and your regular levels of engineers. So it's typically like an engineering associate or a junior, and then you've got your engineer, and then you've got your senior engineers typically. And seniors are typically when they start doing a lot of the automation stuff. And then staff starts to be where you're pretty good at the automation. And then once anybody starts calling themselves principal, in my mind, you have to be teaching others. You have to be showing others how to also do this. So principal level for me is when you're mentoring and building up others as well. That's kind of what I'm thinking. You're building the company-wide techniques at that point, right? So there's that. But an automation mindset, somebody asked about this question, and these are the things that I think deal with an automation mindset. You need to know your tools well. You need to know how they work. You need to know where to use them. And then you need to know how to look things up, but that's true across all tools. And then you need to apply your tools everywhere to make your life easier. If you do that, if you apply your automation tools, this is specifically automation tools, by the way, and you apply those tools everywhere to make your life easier, you're gonna do well. So what might that mean? Right? Hidden API daily. If you guys have ever worked anywhere and you've heard them start talking about like, oh, we're going to be an API first company, that stuff honestly has to just start happening. I've seen companies tell everybody we're going to be an API first company, and then nobody learns how APIs work. But like, if you can hit an API and make that work, like just hit an API daily and pull information from some other team, you would be like amazed at how much less you have to interact with that team. And I'm not saying that like from like a hey, I don't want to work with that other team standpoint. I'm saying like it is just like wonderful. Like you don't have to ask them questions and bug them in the morning every morning for a report. You just pull it from their stuff, and then you it shows them that like you cared enough to put it together from their stuff, right? And I don't know. I just think, and that's how, if you go look at like Amazon was doing that since the 90s. The late 90s and early 2000s, they had this API first. It's called like an API first directive or something. You go look it up. We got a couple people around here that are from Amazon on the website, and they hit APIs all the time. That's what they do. What other things about that? Apply your tools everywhere. If you're typing the same thing for multiple systems, you need to automate it. There's two reasons, really. There's two big reasons why, if you're typing the same thing for multiple systems, you need to automate it. And the main one is you are going to make mistakes. If you guys have watched me type, even just now today, I have literally made hundreds of mistakes in my time. I've probably made more mistakes than I have made words today typing, right? Like I make mistakes all the time. And when I catch them, it's good. If I don't catch them, that's a misconfigured system, right? And you've got these systems all over the place. You got literally hundreds, and like I have thousands of systems that I maintain, and I literally cannot remember. Like if I'm looking at like P0's, P01 node 7512 and P01 node 7514, and I forget which one of them was messed up from last week that I didn't go back and fix, it's never going to happen. And you say, well, put it in your notes. Yeah, sure, put it in my notes, but what if I just have an Ansible playbook that I can just reapply the next week against all the servers that came back up, and now they're all in the right state? That's a better way to do things in my mind. You're always it's like, I gave the example of like paving. If you have a road that's pretty good, but there's a few cracks in it, and you go start at one end and you just drag that like asphalt goo over it, it's going to go over the whole road, but it's only going to fill in where it needs to. And that's how a good automation tool works. Like when you set your automation tool up to do what's called being idempotent, it'll only affect the systems it needs to affect. It'll only fill the cracks where there's somewhere to fill. And you can do there's all kinds of ways to test for things and stuff. Those are all down in our labs, right? But yeah, you need to know those things. All right. And then let me get rid of this thing. This was just me drawing a thing. And then we had our Linux skills, right? We got a lot of Linux stuff that I think you guys need to know. And I'm going to actually, for our Linux skills, I'm going to actually have another thing over here. How do you learn engineering? Maybe I'll put it down here. This one's going to be, you guys are going to see these things all over the place, the thing that doesn't matter. And you're going to be like, what the hell does Scott keep making those for? Why are these things all over the place, the thing that doesn't matter? Because everybody always asks me about the thing that doesn't matter. And that's my college students do it, people on here do it. I try to call it out when I see it, and not to be a jerk, guys. Not because, look, I don't want to like sit here and tell you guys wrong. I get to tell my college students wrong all day. If I got off on that stuff, I would just go to my email and do that right now. That's not my point in doing this. My point in telling you that there's things that don't matter is because so many people focus on the things that don't matter, and they don't get the things that do matter done. And that's a major problem, right? I mean, shit, I do it in streaming, right? Like when I first started, I thought like I had to do like all these other things, and then I realized people don't care about like damn near anything. Like format. The biggest thing I can get people to care about is this right here. Watch this. This will piss off half of you more than anything right there. That probably bugged most of you more than anything else I've done today. In here, like I have all kinds of things about this that bug me, but I don't think it bugs anybody else, right? Like, but what really bugged you guys was me going to Flash. Yeah, sorry, High Proxy. I was checking to see who was awake. Do that in your data center sometime. You'll piss people off. Like if you build monitoring tools for people or something, and you give them a bright white page when you've been giving them a bunch of black pages, because you guys, people that have been around, you guys have seen my monitoring. All my stuff is dark because I'm used to putting it in Network Operations Center where the third shift people tend to be asleep, right? Not asleep, but you don't want to be flashing stuff up in their faces unless you want call outs, you know? So you got to be careful with that stuff. Dark mode or nothing. Yeah, Salty, yeah. There was a really good like short that somebody put together the other day. It came around on our Discord. I don't know where they found. I think it came from a Twitch, and it was like a new guy on the team, and the manager was like, "Hey, can you like shoulder surf with him or whatever?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And then this other girl immediately messengers and's like, "Never ever screen share with that guy ever." And she gets an incoming call from him, and she's getting this Slack. It's actually on Slack, and she's getting a Slack message from this girl in real time, like, "Don't ever Slack with this guy. Like, please, just don't ever let him screen share to you." And the guy's sending her a call because he's about to screen share, and then it just like blasts her in the face with all the white light. It's really funny. I actually feel like that at work a lot. Like if I'm screen sharing at work, I'm always in some kind of dark mode. By the way, guys, this Excalidraw, this is going to be updated. This has a lot of work on it. But did you guys know that I can do this? So there's more to do here. Whoops. I don't want to export it that way. I want to save to the current file. And then I'm also going to save to, I can make this a shareable link, and you guys can have this. And you have to copy it into your browser. You can't just click it there. But you guys can do that. But let me tell you something about Excalidraw. It does not matter what mode somebody sends you something in. It's always in light mode when it comes in. So you're going to have to click this and change it to dark mode. So if you click on that, don't think I sent you guys that in light mode. I don't know why Excalidraw does that, and maybe I need to send that to them as like a bug request. But like, don't ever, yeah. If somebody sends you something, it'll always come over in light mode, and it's super annoying. So I hate that because like if I want to collaborate with somebody, I know that they're gonna see it. Unless I always like will send a screenshot of it and be like, this is what it looks like, you know, and then we'll go from there. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna move this stuff around. Don't worry, guys. This isn't the finished one. I have a lot of stuff to keep adding to this. Certification study. Body of knowledge. Any good Black Friday salty waffles? I haven't seen any. Yeah, I haven't seen any. You know, I go on Amazon a lot, and I've been looking for presents for my wife because her birthday's on Sunday, and you say, you're waiting that long? No, I mean, you know, I get her stuff all year, so it's kind of like a thing. But I try to get her something nice right around her birthday, you know. Cypher Enigma, thanks for showing up. Yeah, we're going through stuff. We've got the little Linux questions rolling. I have a bunch more questions on there, so if you've been here before and are like, I've seen all those questions, I added probably like 20 questions today. So there's a lot more of those Linux questions that are spinning in the top right. And then we're just going over, you know, how do you get into engineering? How do you learn engineering? There's structured learning and unstructured learning. I'm going to keep adding to this. And then, you know, getting into the Linux engineering field, here's some of the things that I think you guys need to know. I'm going to keep adding to these and keep making this kind of bigger as we go. Runamucker, I need to add a lurking command. Yeah, lurks are the backbone of Twitch. You guys are welcome to lurk and absorb things as we go. What else? I'm getting up on around my time, so I couldn't stay on here all night, so I wanted to hop on a little early. Guys, there's one of the things I'm going to add to this as well is just going to be a list of our labs, and it's just going to like show kind of how our labs are broken down for the things you need to kind of learn. And some of that is in our book, and some of that is just kind of like you just have to go spend time kind of doing it. Yeah, Rodom, that means a lot because especially for you guys that don't know, working on the doctorate, like I do that every morning. I hit my doctorate every morning. I do. I work on all my college stuff, so I have stuff to grade still for this week because basically all the grades come. Most of the students turn everything in on Sunday night for the next week. So I got a lot of grading to do, and it's like, yeah, when I pop on it, I'm trying to show you guys stuff that's useful, and not do too much BSing. I mean, obviously BSing is part of engineering and stuff, and just hearing some of these terms in general, I think, are valuable for you guys that want to do it. But the main thing I think to remember about this is like, you just got to do it right. Like look, we're at the end of the year. You've got probably about a little over 5 weeks, maybe closer to 6 weeks till the end of the year. You could have a certification by the end of the year. In fact, anybody down in our Discord that doesn't have one picked out by the start of December, I'm gonna assign one. And look, I know I can't make anybody do it, but for the 1 or 2 people that do it with me, I'm gonna go get this cert too. I don't hold a white belt in Six Sigma. I'm gonna go get one of those because I want you guys to do it. I think you guys can do it. There's no reason not to have that on your resume. Look guys, I'm gonna show you this. Like, here's the most Chad thing ever. I told you guys this, but your resume is when you're in an interview. Did you know that's the only time you're allowed to brag? The only time in life that you're allowed to brag is when you're in an interview. It's the only time. Everywhere else, it looks like you're a jerk. Hold on, let me find where this is. I think it's on the Linux group here. We're looking for het. Hold on. It's like het resume short. Het resume short generic. Here we go. Right? This is my generic resume, right? And even though I have all of these things on my resume, and even though you might think, like, would he really put a white belt in Six Sigma? Absolutely, I would. Why not? If somebody has all the other same stuff as me, I want to have one other thing to differentiate me better than them. Yeah, like, I mean, I have all these things that I've done, and this is on my one-page one, because I do like the idea as you get further in your career going back down to one page. I think an engineer is allowed. When you start, you'll have one page probably. When you get to the middle of your career as an engineer, I think you're allowed generally to go up to 3, and then later as you get further on in your career, I think you can go back down to 1. Like I've filtered so much stuff out of here that I've done because I can talk literally about anything on here for as long as somebody wants to. Like maybe it was like a Network 360 Wireless Tech and Services Lab. What did you do in that? And I'd be like, what week? I've taught that class 13 times now. Like, I can talk about any of this stuff. Oh, network operating systems, you know those pretty well? You sure do, right? Like, and my point in saying that, again, isn't to be a Chad. It's just, if somebody's going to ask, if you're going to be in a resume, if you're going to be in a job, make sure that you have stuff on here that you're competent to talk to, right? All right. This is my stuff from the Army. Or, that's not the Army, that's the doctorate stuff. My background. All right, what else do we got? I'll talk about this last thing before I go. There's a bunch of general knowledge things, like things that are like Linux engineering adjacent. They're still engineering, and I think that they're useful to know, even though they're not directly related to it, right? Networking, you got to know your networking, guys. You got to know how to slap a computer onto the network and how to work with your networking teams, right? Hardware design, you don't need to know all the different chipsets that are out there, but it does help you to know how to differentiate. If I've got a system, this is exactly one of my clients, 1196 nodes. Actually, we just added some, so we're up to 12 and some change hundred now. But they get 1 drop a year from like their fiscal budget. They get 1 big drop a year of new hardware, and we change that hardware every 3 to 4 years. Now, it's very useful, even though the naming scheme is very well defined for us, for me to know that I can check and see that all of those servers of one name belong to one family of hardware and all the servers of another name have a different family of hardware. That is something, because I know networking and hardware design, and I know how to go look at the chip stuff. By the way, that's a question I've been asking on this stuff here. I've been asking that stuff because it's stuff I literally use all the time as an engineer. Roadom, you said apart from projects, is there any way to recommend showcasing our skill set and knowledge? Certs, right? You have certifications. Certifications show that you can study something and do it according to somebody else's body of knowledge. Like, look, we can all go read. Guys, there's all kinds of stuff to read. In fact, if I told you that right now, if you started now and you read for 5 days, 5 hours a day, from now until the end of the year, you would not complete all the stuff that you could read just in like the frequently asked questions and like like good practices pages of the AWS documentation. If you read for 5 hours a day from now until the end of the year, you wouldn't even I bet you wouldn't even scratch the surface of that. But hold on, if you did that same thing and instead you studied for 16 hours and you went and you got your CCP, your Certified Cloud Practitioner, which is like $100 test, that right there, that $100 test, you can go slap it on your resume then. By the way, you could have that by the end of the year if you wanted it. And then now that one really opens up a lot of doors for any of those Linux things we were talking about earlier where it was Linux and cloud. Now you at least have some cloud in there. And you might say, well, Scott, I don't know the cloud very well. I don't care. You got a cert in it. That at least gets you in the door. You want to do Linux, don't you? And the job you looked for said Linux engineer. But then, again, when we were just showing it, we were looking and opening it up. And it's like, it says Linux engineer on it, but they really mean a storage engineer. Or it says a Linux engineer and they really mean a cloud engineer. But it'll get you in there. Projects and certs, Robodom. That's unstructured learning, right? Well, certs are semi-structured. I need to put one in between here that's semi-structured. But no matter what reading or no matter what type of learning you think you want to do, both of them require reading. If you tell me I'm going to do unstructured learning, I'm going to go be a hacker man's, I'm going to tell you, okay, that's fine. But you better be reading. You better be reading a lot, right? Here, let me pull this over so you guys can see it. There's always a thing that doesn't matter. And the thing that doesn't matter is always there, and people are always wondering it. Like, they're like, hey, Scott's here talking about all this Linux stuff, but I wonder what kind of shoes he's got on right now. I don't have any shoes on, guys. It's not the effing point. The point is, like, focus on the engineering, right? I don't know. That happens all the time. I tell Jared when he comes and talks to our Linux group, I'm like, Jared, people will listen to you talk about Google advertisements and Google Tag Manager for an hour and a half. They will hear you talk about doing it for $1 billion annual e-commerce site, and they will ask you about what you eat for lunch every day. And I'm just like, doesn't matter. That's the thing that doesn't matter. But that's what people focus on. It happens all the time. I don't even want to fault people. I think that you should know it and you should call it out if it's you, right? Like if you're the person who gets easily distracted by like a squirrel, or if you have diagnosed ADHD, not undiagnosed. Everybody's got undiagnosed ADHD, right? But if you have diagnosed ADHD, learn that that's something that affects you and then go fix it, right? Figure out how you learn. Knowing how to talk about it's important. Yeah, and there's other things. I tell you guys this sometimes, like, one of the best things I think you can go do and spend your time with is if you're like, you know what, I'm all teched out, go get yourself into Toastmasters. Go learn how to talk. If you struggle, if you've never given a toast, if you've never done parliamentary procedures to know how people around a table should talk if they're coming for a meeting, go do that. Because most of you probably have only ever done that, most people in general have only ever done that in like the meetings of a company they've been in. But then you go and you find out, oh no, there's a formal way to run a meeting and to run a toast. That's what Toastmasters are. They tell you how to run a gathering of people. It's not just, people think it's just a place to do public speaking. That's not all they do. They teach you how to run a meeting from start to finish. You learn that if somebody ever leaves the podium unguarded, you can take a meeting over. Did you guys know that? We've been in Zoom calls so much the last 3 years, people forget that. But if you leave the front of a meeting open in Toastmasters, if you put the gavel down and walk away, anybody in that meeting can take over the meeting. They're allowed to walk up there and take it. It's a kind of funny thing to see, too. Most people will never leave because they know that. But, yeah, it's one of those things you got to pay attention to, right? Okay, and like most people don't know that like until they've done it, right? So then you go get the experience. So, all right. Got so many things here to keep working on, keep adding to this stuff. I'm going to probably drop here, guys. Let me go to our end of stream here. Boom. I appreciate you guys coming by. Let's go find somebody to raid. Maybe there's somebody doing important stuff out there in the world that we can go raid them and see kind of what's going on. Let's see if no fisherman on, is there? I don't see fisherman on. Is there let's just go to the science and tech channel. Hold on, I'm just gonna go jump over to science and tech and see who's in there. Maybe we raid somebody that's doing something fun. Science and technology. Boom. Let's see who's there. There is Science. What's that guy doing? I won't bug them. Astrobiology. Retro computer shows. Let's go raid this guy. I don't know who this guy is. Let's go raid him. Maybe he's got some fun stuff going on. You guys can say whatever you want when you get over there. We don't have like a raid message or anything, but I do like to do this one. So if any of you guys want to use that one, you can do that one. That's a nice little raid message. And I will talk to you guys all tomorrow night after I teach my college class. Take care.